I had always believed in family, the messy, chaotic, imperfect kind that somehow makes life feel whole. When my daughter Sarah announced her engagement to Adil, I felt a surge of pride and excitement. He seemed charming at first, polite, attentive, and ambitious. I wanted to be the mother-in-law who welcomed him with open arms, the one who stitched our families closer rather than tearing them apart. I spent months helping them, planning the wedding, arranging flowers, organizing catering, even secretly lending money when they faced unexpected expenses. Every sleepless night I endured was worth the smile on my daughter's face, or so I thought, but charm is a mask. And some smiles hide knives. The first real crack appeared at dinner when Adil's polite facade slipped. We were discussing wedding arrangements, banquet hall, guest lists, decorations, and I suggested some ideas to make the day more personal, more meaningful. His eyes darkened slightly, a shadow crossing his face. "You know," he said slowly, deliberately, "the greatest gift for our wedding would be if you disappeared from our family." I froze, my fork clattering against the plate. My heart pounded so loudly, I was certain he could hear it. The words weren't just cruel, they were venomous, deliberate, and final. I had loved this family with every ounce of my heart, sacrificed for them, and in a single sentence, he dismissed me as if I were nothing. What? I managed, my voice shaking. He smirked, as if mocking my disbelief. "You've done enough, really. Your presence isn't necessary. Sarah and I have our own life to build now." Sarah, my sweet daughter, looked down at her plate, avoiding both our eyes. I realized then that Adil's poison had seeped in quietly over time, shaping her thoughts, bending her loyalties. Betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers until it becomes undeniable. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every memory I had of helping them, guiding them, loving them. Every gesture, every sacrifice, every sleepless night seemed meaningless now. The bitter truth settled in. I was no longer welcome. And the cruel twist, my love for them made the wound sharper. But in that pain a spark ignited. If they wanted me gone, then gone I would be, but on my terms. Not in defeat, not in heartbreak, not as the discarded mother. In law they imagined. No, I would disappear. But I would return in ways they never saw coming. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches patience, cunning, and resolve, and mine, I realized, was just beginning. I didn't vanish immediately. That would have been too obvious, too easy for Adil to dismiss as temporary anger or frustration. No, disappearing would require strategy, patience, and precision. I had to make it appear as though I was withdrawing in sorrow, that my departure was my choice born of heartbreak, not of cunning. In the weeks that followed, I played the part of the grieving mother-in-law. I stayed polite at family gatherings, smiled when Sarah showed me wedding pictures, laughed when Adil tried to charm me with his shallow jokes, but behind every smile was a calculated retreat. I slowly sold small possessions, quietly closing accounts, leaving no trace that could tie me to my next move. Every action, every word was carefully measured. Friends began to notice my absence. Calls went unanswered. Visits became rare. Sarah, confused and hurt, tried to reach me several times, but I was careful. I let her worry, let her feel the absence she had once demanded I provide. And Adil, his smirk remained, but I could sense the first stirrings of unease. He thought he had won. He thought his words had broken me completely. But while they celebrated the illusion of victory, I was quietly building the foundation for my return. I secured a small apartment in another city, started taking evening classes to sharpen my skills, and began networking with people who could one day become allies or unwitting tools in my eventual plan. Every day I spent apart, every moment I endured their forgetting me strengthened me. There were nights I lay awake listening to Sarah laugh on the phone with Adil, the sound cutting like glass. I missed her fiercely, but I also knew that absence was necessary. Sweet revenge is rarely immediate. It is patient, silent, and precise. And I was learning the art of patience in a way I never had before. I wasn't running from them. I was disappearing in plain sight. And when the time came to return, it wouldn't be as the vulnerable, discarded mother-in-law. I would come back powerful, respected, untouchable. Because some gifts, I realized, aren't given, they're delivered when least expected, and my disappearance was only the beginning. The first few months were the hardest. Every morning I woke up in a modest apartment that smelled faintly of paint and dust, far removed from the home I had once filled with warmth and laughter. The quiet was unfamiliar, almost unbearable, and loneliness threatened to consume me. But with each passing day, I discovered a strange freedom in the distance from Adil's cruelty. I could breathe, think, and rebuild without the constant shadow of rejection looming over me. I started from nothing. I took on odd jobs, slowly saving, while secretly studying business, law, and finance online. I made new friends, people who respected me, who didn't judge me for being a mother-in-law, a woman who had been discarded. These were connections that would one day be invaluable, though I didn't realize it yet. Watching from afar, I observed Adil's missteps. His arrogance blinded him. He overestimated his charm and underestimated the consequences of his lies. He cut corners in deals, alienated partners, and slowly began to falter in ways no one would immediately connect to me. But I quietly rejoiced every time I heard of his failures. Sarah, my daughter, seemed increasingly restless under his control. She still called occasionally, confused and longing for guidance, unaware that the mother she thought lost was silently shaping her future from afar. And in my solitude, I learned to savor small victories. A business I had advised anonymously began to thrive, and I discreetly helped Sarah navigate challenges she faced, leaving subtle hints and anonymous assistance that guided her toward better choices. Each act was deliberate, a small gift of justice, invisible yet deeply felt. The pain of betrayal never fully left me, but it transformed. It became a tool, a source of clarity and cunning. I was no longer the hurt mother-in-law. I was an architect of quiet power, patiently weaving the threads of my eventual return. And I knew this when I came back. It wouldn't be as someone begging for acceptance. I would return as someone they couldn't ignore, couldn't manipulate, and couldn't humiliate. The mother-in-law they had cast aside would re-emerge not in sorrow, but in triumph. Because true revenge, I had learned, isn't shouted. It's delivered silently, gracefully, and with precision that leaves the culprit stunned and humbled. Years passed, and with them I transformed into a woman unrecognizable to the family that had dismissed me. I returned not as the discarded, heartbroken mother-in-law, but as a formidable, respected figure in business and society. My presence commanded attention, my name carried weight, and the people who had once ignored me now sought my counsel. Adil, unaware of the identity of the woman he had wronged, came to me seeking assistance. He needed my expertise to salvage a failing deal, to repair bridges he had burned. He smiled with arrogance, not realizing the gravity of the mistake he had made. The table had turned, and I held the power now. Quiet, unspoken, undeniable. I met my daughter privately, Sarah, and the first embrace was a torrent of emotions, love, relief, and the long, suppressed pain of years of separation. She had suffered quietly, unable to reconcile the man she loved with the cruelty she had witnessed. I explained nothing of my years of careful planning, but she felt it in every gesture, every word. She realized that my disappearance had not been abandonment. It had been protection, preparation, and justice in its most elegant form. The final act of revenge was subtle yet devastating. Adil, overconfident, underestimated my influence, only to find himself exposed, humiliated in front of his peers and bound to my terms. No shouting, no confrontation, just the calm, undeniable assertion of power that left him stunned. I had vanished once, but my return was proof that love and cunning, when combined, can rewrite the rules. Sarah hugged me, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't understand before you saved me in ways I never knew," she whispered. I smiled, a mixture of triumph and tenderness. I disappeared to protect what was truly mine, our bond, our family, and the justice that was long overdue. Adil's face, once smug and cruel, now bore the quiet despair of someone who had misjudged the heart he had tried to crush. And I knew, finally, that my disappearance had served its purpose. I had walked away when they demanded it, but I had returned stronger, wiser, and untouchable proof that sometimes the greatest gift one can give is the power of patience, resilience, and sweet, unshakable revenge.